Before we get to today's show, I wanted to share a quick reminder that being financially organized is one of the biggest factors in building wealth. Want to be a millionaire? It's not going to happen if you're not organized with your money. So, how can you get organized? Well, our favorite app is Empower. It's free, allows you to connect your banks and brokers, and it gives you daily income and expense updates. Ready to try it out? You can sign up at thecollegeinvestor.com/empowermoney. Hey there, welcome to the College Investor Audio Show. Today, kind of some sad news for our friends over at Syracuse University. They admit their first budget deficit in years after missing 2026 enrollment. Kind of the story with a lot of schools, unfortunately, so we'll dive in just a second. But first, just let you know and remind you that anytime you hear a podcast, you can always see the article associated with it at thecollegeinvestor.com. You dive in deeper, and we have resources and links and everything you could possibly want to know about every single topic we talk about. You can also follow, like, and all the things on social media. Just search for the words The College Investor, and you'll find us. We'd love to get to know you. All right, here we go. Syracuse University Chancellor J. Michael Haynie told the community last week that it will not hit its undergrad enrollment target for the fall and as a result will run a budget deficit, which is, quote, something the university has not experienced in quite some time, end quote. His letter framed the shortfall as the product of national forces, a shrinking pool of 18-year-olds, fierce competition for students, and a drop in international applications tied to visa problems and federal policy. While that backdrop is true, we believe it to be only partly responsible for Syracuse's downfall. Haynie's letter casts the deficit as the new normal for even strong, well-resourced universities, a framing that quietly recasts a Syracuse problem as everyone's problem. So Syracuse spent the last several years making a series of financial and communication decisions that alienated the very families it now needs. Plenty of peer schools face the same demographic and policy headwinds, but have been seeing record applications and normal enrollment. So what gives, dude? The new normal is true for smaller private universities that do face headwinds and risks, but much of what Syracuse is facing is kind of self-inflicted. And here's why. This has been a deficit that's been years in the making. It has nothing to do with federal policy, really. Undergrad tuition is the university's primary source of revenue. And missing the enrollment target means Syracuse, quote, will not bring in enough revenue to cover its spending. Haynie urged urgency and response, not panic, and said enrollment volatility has become the new normal, even for strong, well-resourced schools. Our take is this. Some of Syracuse's shortfall is the new normal, but a lot of their issues is due to a string of decisions other schools simply just didn't make. It's telling that this letter is from a chancellor who's only been in position for a few months at a college that's seen a slate of public gaffes over the years. The exposure is structural. Student services revenue, including room and board for sophomores and up, plus athletic ticket sales, accounts for 65% of Syracuse's operating income. That's a lot, according to Syracuse.com. So when headcount drops, the financial hit lands immediately. The slide has been building for more than a year. In fall of 25, for instance, the university reported overall enrollment falling roughly 3.5%, driven largely by declines in international and master's students, which is according to the former chancellor. International students historically made up about 15% of Syracuse's student body and typically pay the full price of tuition, just a tick under $70,000. So their absence carries outsized weight, really. Those numbers fell after the Trump administration temporarily suspended visa interviews in mid-25, and 3 Syracuse students had their visas abruptly revoked. That's just 3, as part of a federal action affecting more than 1,700 students nationwide. Syracuse's Center for International Services, the official liaison with U.S. immigration offices, lost more than a third of its staff over the summer. The financial aid unforced error. Syracuse has been the butt of financial aid professional jokes for the last several years. In spring of 2025, with echoes happening on a smaller scale in 26, The university lowballed admitted students on merit aid, then reversed course after coming up short on commitments, offering some students who had already declined packages worth up to $200,000 over 4 years. Whoops. The New York Times documented the situation in a June 2025 article headlined, "Why did Syracuse offer $200K deals to teens who had turned it down? The fallout, the article didn't say but it should have maybe, I don't know. The fallout reported that by the Daily Orange fell hardest on families who followed the rules. Parents who committed by the May 1st national decision deadline watched students who waited or who had declined outright receive tens of thousands of dollars more. One parent who appealed said she was offered $2,500 at the time, and, quote, which compared to the $45K one could get just by not committing became a bit of a joke, end quote. Another called it totally a slap in the face. Ouch. Multiple families said emails to the financial aid office went, you guessed it, unanswered. The episode was not a rounding error either. It rewarded indecision, punished loyalty, and signaled to thousands of families that Syracuse's published deadlines and merit criteria were negotiable. Merit aid, one alum told the Daily Orange, should reward achievement and make great education accessible, not serve as a last-minute admissions tactic. For a school whose entire educational pitch rests on trust, the reputational damage arrived just before the very recruiting cycle, now coming up short. Here's what we've been hearing from families. Not good, really? At the College Investor, we spend a lot of time reading what parents and students actually say about paying for college. Across our Facebook communities, our comment section, and the questions readers send us directly. Syracuse has been coming up, and the sentiment is not good at all. Knowledge Sunflower 4106 says this, Syracuse is overpriced in my opinion. I believe they will need to make real changes in order to remain competitive in this environment. That's probably a good point. The near six-figure sticker price is the first turnoff. Even families who can write the check tell us they see a number close to $95,000 a year and just, quietly cross the school off the list before they ever even weigh the financial aid award. A sticker price that high doesn't just screen out who can pay. It shapes who bothers to even apply. Anonymous participant said this, on April 30th, my child was notified of an extension to enroll by May 15th by the financial aid office at Syracuse as we were still in the process of appealing their merit offer. We haven't heard anything from them since. Anyone else in the same boat and still waiting to hear back from them? The aid messaging is the second, and in our communities, it may be doing more damage than the price. After the 2025 episode became public, the takeaway families repeated was not Syracuse is generous. It was some variation of Syracuse plays games. Ouch. Parents described the feeling like they were dealing with a used car salesman. A double ouch. That the published deadline and the first offer were openers, not real numbers, and that the family who trusted the process paid more than the family who walked away from it. And many were now waiting because they felt that Syracuse would wait to offer more aid. Any thoughts if this is another direct quote from an anonymous person? Any thoughts if Syracuse will offer more merit closer to May 1st? I know their issues last year, but really hoping they come back with more. Their costs are out of control. That is a corrosive thing for a college to teach the people considering paying for it. Once families believe the aid number is a tactic rather than an assessment of their student, some stop applying altogether rather than risk being the ones who get played. This is the part of the story the new normal framing misses entirely. National demographics don't explain why our readers specifically distrust Syracuse's financial aid office. That distrust was earned, too, and it's showing up in the exact behavior a tuition-dependent school can least afford. Qualified families choosing not to apply at all. Here's what this means for families who are considering this school. For households weighing Syracuse, the lesson is simple. All of a sudden, I can't talk. Anyway, the sticker price is high, and the discount system is opaque at best. Cost of attendance, close to $100,000 a year. I'm sorry for laughing, but that's pretty bad. And while the university touted a 7% increase to its aid budget last year, bringing the total to $391 million, families learned that the timing and size of an award could hinge on whether they held out rather than on a student's record. The deficit also raises practical questions for current students. Budget gaps tend to surface in larger class sizes, thinner student services, deferred maintenance, and pressure on the programs students enrolled to study. Syracuse has already started seeing some changes. Good. In April, the university announced it would sunset 93 programs through an academic portfolio review, cutting a catalog of roughly 460 degree programs and certificates that Provost Lois Agnew noted was, quote, well above the peer average of roughly 200 programs at comparable institutions. The university also offered voluntary retirement packages to almost 175 faculty. By the provost's own figures, 55 of the 93 programs had 0 students enrolled. Not good. And the closures affect 258 students, about 1.2% of the student body, all of whom will be allowed to finish their degrees. Agnew stressed the review was not a cost-cutting exercise and that no positions were slated for elimination, framing it instead as disciplined stewardship. Even taken at face value, it's a striking amount of institutional restructuring to land in the same window as a budget warning. Families paying near 6 figures a year have a reasonable expectation that the catalog they chose will still exist at graduation. Right? So, for prospective students, the practical move is to treat any single school's financial aid offer as a starting point, not a verdict, and to compare net price across multiple schools. The key word there, net. This cycle once again showed that schools facing enrollment pressure may sweeten offers after May 1st. But counting on that is kind of a gamble, really. Here's what happens next. Haynie is right. That demography is tightening. The number of 18-year-old high school graduates peaked at 3.9 million last year and is projected to decline for the next 15, a squeeze every tuition-dependent school will feel. But that's precisely why the new normal framing deserves scrutiny, though. If the headwinds are kind of universal, the differentiator is execution, and Syracuse's execution is what failed miserably. Other expensive institutions face the same demographic cliff without generating headlines about poaching their rivals' declined applicants after the May 1st deadline, ignoring families' emails, or gutting the office that supports international students. Blaming macroeconomics for an outcome your competitors avoided is not analysis. It's deflection. I mean, this is strong language, but it's true, right? The deficit is a moment of accountability for an administration that over the past year raised prices, restructured programs, mishandled aid, and let its international student support erode. Then asked families to trust that everything is under control and that the rest of higher education is in the same boat. Whether Syracuse emerges stronger, as Haynie predicts, will depend less on the national environment than on whether leadership stops treating families who pay the bills as variables to be optimized. One of the biggest reasons families distrust higher education is pricing, and Syracuse is a prime example as to why. And that is our show for today. If you want to find out more about Syracuse and all the other things that are going on with higher education right now, there's a lot going on. You can find it at thecollegeinvestor.com. Also, like, subscribe, and all the things on social. We're there pretty much anywhere you are. We're there too. Just type in the words The College Investor, and you'll find us. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and we'll talk to you again real soon.